So this reading is from pages 35 to 43. We start here where we left off and move to here, page 43. This is the center of the dialogue. This is the central point of Plato's presentation of this discussion of death. It's the most important part, I think, because it's where the most serious challenges are given to Socrates' belief that the soul is immortal. And they're given by these two characters, Simmias and Cebes. So it's important to see what the objections are. There are different notions of death than the one that Socrates has so far outlined. The first comes from Simmias. And that begins at the bottom of page 36. This is what I take to be the most important objection to the idea that the soul, once it separates from the body, can continue to exist. This is Simmias's idea of the soul as harmony. The other objection comes from Cebes, and that's the idea that it's possible that just as the body wears out, that the soul can wear out. That just because the soul is thought of as something which is more durable, that outlasts the body, that there's no reason to believe that the soul itself might eventually go out of existence. And that's the objection. Take a look at it on pages 38 and 39 from Cebes. But I would say that, again, this is my reading of it, that much the stronger and more interesting objection comes from Simmias on pages 36 and 37, this idea of soul as harmony. I'll tell you why I think it's stronger and much more interesting, is that Socrates has defined death as the separation of soul and body. And what that would imply is that we as human beings have this dual aspect. We are both physical and non-physical beings. And I think that that's pretty convincing, the idea that we're both physical and non-physical beings, that we are not just body, that there's something else to us besides body, something like mind, consciousness, subjectivity, awareness, which is not physical entirely. It can also be called spirit or soul. That I think that I would say, in terms of the way we think of ourselves, that's pretty likely, and that body is different from soul, and that it may be that soul is of a different quality than body, that they are two different things. But as you look at it here on pages 36 and 37, what the idea of soul as harmony implies is that although soul, which is, as he says, invisible and perhaps spiritual, that despite that it's dependent upon body, in the same way that a harmony is dependent upon the physical parts of the musical instrument. He's reasoning by analogy here and saying, well, the harmony that's produced by a musical instrument may be thought of as something divine and incorporeal and non-physical. But no one believes that the harmony continues to exist when the instrument is destroyed. The analogy there is that, well, we could say that the soul is what you say it is, that it's something that is incorporeal, that is not body, something invisible, something non-physical, but that it is entirely dependent upon body for its existence. That's why I take it to be such a challenge, because we could say that the soul and body are distinct, that they're two different things. So the death of the body does not necessarily mean the death of the soul. However, it could be that the relationship is one of dependence. That is, that soul, although something distinct from body, is still dependent upon body for its existence. That's a very challenging, I think, a very challenging thought to Socrates' idea that the soul is immortal. We could definitely think of the soul as something distinct from body, but if we believe that the soul was dependent upon body, then our prospects for immortality would be dashed. So it's a very, I think, a very, very strong and challenging thesis, counter thesis to Socrates' idea of the immortality of the soul. And it has this sort of, you can see dramatically as we, the Siebes objection, along with Simmias' objection, has this really dramatic effect on the people there. Right, Echecrates breaks in there. Remember, Phaedo is telling this whole thing to Echecrates, and he hasn't really spoken since that. And Phaedo says that there was a wonderful sort of pause in the philosophical discussion where he has this interaction with Socrates here, where basically says to him, we shouldn't give up. And even though I gave an argument for the immortality of the soul, and then Simmias and Siebes gave an argument that seems just as strong for the reverse of that we shouldn't give up on arguments. This is the idea of misology. We shouldn't become haters of arguments because we feel like we've been led astray by different arguments. Because arguments, when it comes to this sort of thing, trying to understand something that is it's really a deep metaphysical question, arguments are all we have.